talking about on research strategies, research horizon, and the data collection techniques, approach, method, and so on and so forth. Okay, that is what this presentation part of our module is all about. Remember, everything we are doing is all about ensuring that a research process is done correctly, more in particular on research proposal, which is an engine of your research process. I take research proposal as the way it is. You are proposing what you want to do. You have not done it. I want to do this. You are present a document that can convince next person that what you want to do, your supervisor, a reader, to be convinced that whatever you want to do is achievable, and so on and so forth. So everything we are talking about, we're going to be talking about, is all about giving that base for you to stand to get it right. So research is a process with a deliverable outcome, with a deliverable objective. Every research that is being done have a defined outcome. That is why on your proposal, you have the aim of your study and the objective of your study, what you want to achieve. By the end of this study, judge me on this. I want to achieve 1, 2, 3. Overall, this is the entire program of outcome that I want to achieve. Then within this outcome, which is your aim, I want to achieve A, B, C, D. So it's a plan that guides you towards you achieving that. Now, the ability to conduct this process-driven research, because we say it's a process that guides you to achieve an outcome. Your ability for you to be able to achieve this process-driven research. We saw in our first presentation that research is a common thing we do every day. But however, what makes academic research different? I hope I'm being recorded, right?
Yes,
what
Prof.
Thank you. What makes research, academic research, different from any other research? That there are processes we must follow, and then towards achieving that main outcome, that main objective. Now, so in this case today, we're talking about the ability for us to achieve this process-driven research that will give us the outcome. There is a need for us to understand research strategies, the time horizon, and then data collection techniques, data collection processes, methods, and approach, and so on and so forth. What is research strategy? Are plans that assist one to conduct or achieve a research goal, a research objective. So it's a plan that guides you towards you achieving this research which you have set for yourself. So in this case right now, you want to look at how acceptance or the use of robotics in a tertiary institution, right? That is what you want to achieve. You want to understand at the acceptance level or the perception of a respondent, of this group of people, of organization, of these entities towards this. Now, for that objective to be realized, there is a need for you to have a plan to achieve that, which is now the strategy to achieve that. So in this case, the research strategies are defined by, for there to be a research strategy, what we need to understand that this strategy must be defined by research area. or the areas. By that research area, which area are you doing it? So in this case, you're talking about robotics, you're talking about entity called higher education, and so on and so forth. And within this entity, you have people that will give you your data which you are looking for. It has to be defined by the kind of research objective that you want to carry out, the research question, and the overall method that you have chosen, which we have talked about in our previous presentation, research methodology. So that defines the research strategy. And now there are different kinds of research strategy that will guide you on the topic that you are doing, on the topic that you want to pass through. So now, in this case right now, what are we talking about here? Okay, so in this case, what you need to understand that there is a need for you to be able to say, okay, I want to do this research about robotics, about e-marking. Now, who or where can I collect data to help me find the perception, the attitude, the acceptance, the challenges, the factors that can affect, that impede the acceptance of e-marking, robotics in schools, and so on and so forth, for example. Now, for you to be able to say, okay, now for me to do this, I need students. In this instance, when I say, okay, I need students, how do I approach this student? Do I want to get a random understanding from them, samples from them, and so on and so forth? So now, when you think about the research objective, you say, okay, I'm going to use quantitative. In this quantitative now, why do I want to use that quantitative? I want to use justify why you want to use this quantitative. Now it's okay. I want to look at the whole student. How many students are you talking about? In their thousands, in their hundreds. Are you able to get each of them to be involved? The answer, yes or no. Okay, if you say, okay, I want to group them either in their thousands, if I want to group them in, if I want to put them in group, how can I be able to do that? So you think about all this, okay, no, fine. Okay, let me go for a particular type of this strategy. Okay, so okay, looking at survey. A survey is a research method that can use to collect the data, which can be either on the part of quantitative, qualitative, or even mix. However, within this survey, if it's like you want to use the survey to carry out this study, and one of the commonest research survey that is being used is questionnaire. And now when you use questionnaire, one of two things that is being asked, okay, you want to collect from the larger population. If the people you're talking about, they are in their 10, there is no need of using questionnaire. Interview can be suitable on that. If there are hundreds, questionnaire can be suitable on that. Because now it's gonna give you more reach to the larger population. Because if you say, okay, they're in their thousands and even in their thousand, if you use interview, how are you gonna be able to get across the respondents? So okay, so that is one element of a research strategy. You have your case, which is used in a small number or single entity in a quantitative study to gain a deeper understanding to this particular phenomenon, to this particular study you want to carry out, using a range of data sources. So in this case studies, okay, you want to look at review document, you want to observe what is being done, you want to conduct interview, and so on and so forth. We have experimental research, which involve the approach to establish the cause and effect. So now there must be a variable, there must be an independent variable. They want to, okay, Does this lead to this? Then you observe the process, you observe the experiment, you conduct in a lab and everything, which is mostly used in a science studies and so on and so forth. You test it and then you control. There are measures, there are quantities of what should be measured, what should be used, and so on and so forth. We have an action research, action research, which involves the process of addressing real life problem in a specific area or location. So if your study involves addressing a specific issue in a particular place, action research can be suitable for it because it involves a continuous plan, action, observe, and reflect. Now, this is a problem we want to solve. You get your input from the respondent. You provide solution. You go back to them to ensure that whatever you are profound, what the input they are giving to you fit to what they are talking about towards addressing this real life problem. So it's driven by the process of continuity. It doesn't stop there. You can always go back to understand what is happening. Okay, based on, let's say now you say, okay, now, you want to conduct, want to solve the element of fear in adopting e-marking or robotics and everything, because this has been used, but there is still that fear of forever, whatever, it's causing some it has some effect on the people. Then you say, okay, no, let's implement this research. By the time you're able to do it, you still go back to them and say, okay, you plan it again and then redo it. You check, you observe how the intervention that they are profound, how is it working, whether it's working or not, and so on and so forth. You reflect on that and then you make corrections and so on and so forth. That is action research. What about grounded theory research? This is a qualitative research method to develop a theory, model, a conceptual framework based on empirical data. That is what that is more. That is, you need to collect the data. The data will be collected and analyzed to identify patterns towards formulating this theory. So in this case, right now, let's say on what I call it, robotics and robotics marking. Now, how can e-marking be adopted, be accepted? How can robotics be accepted into teaching and learning in the higher institution, in academic institution, right? Whether tertiary or any level of academic learning environment. Now, but you need to be able to provide a model, a way, a prototype, or a guiding principle, steps that can assist in terms of implementing this e marker robotics robot. Now, what grounded theory will do for you is this: you're able to collect data and then analyze that very data. In the process of you analyzing this very data, you're able to establish themes, headings, categories, a pattern in these categories, how they link, how they interact, that will enable you to formulate whatever you want to build on. So your objective is to develop a model, a framework, a conceptual framework, a theory that will guide the implementation of e-marketing, robotics. But for you to be able to achieve that, you need to be able to do what? To provide this framework. Now, the data you collect will be able to guide you how the framework will look like and the link between components and so on and so forth. Ethnograph, uh, ethnographic research. Ethnograph research involves research that is being done in a social or cultural environment. in order for you to understand the norms, the values, the ethics in a given environment. So if your study is trying to understand the practical aspect, this is mainly used in a humanities studies and so on and so forth, in history and so on and so forth. Then humanities in history discipline, in cultural discipline, language discipline, and so on and so forth. That's for you to understand the belief system, the patterns, and the practices of the people. And data can be collected through taking of note, interview, audio, video recording, observation, and many others towards understanding, getting data from them. Remember, research approach as a plan for you achieving this very study, which deals on the path of what you collecting data, which now you now process to make your findings. So we are seeing this as so this approach is all enable you to collect data. So the research strategy focus more on the plan towards you collecting your research data. So we have cross-sectional studies examine a sample at a time and report on the respondent character, on how they react and their findings and so on and so forth, which is an observational study to make comparison among the groups, the respondents. So in this case right now, if your study is trying to look at, okay, I'm going to collect this study now, but I want to subject it to comparativeness. Looking at this study was collected at this institution. Now, in that institution. So by so doing, you're able to okay, to make that comparison between them to okay, what is the findings, what is the commonalities or whatever you want to achieve in that particular study. Okay, we have a participatory action research, which involves a collaboration between researchers and the stakeholders to address social inequalities, which in this kind of study, the people, the stakeholders are part of it in a sense that what they are able to assist even at the time of formulating the study towards applying, bringing a social change in the society. So which kind of research do you fall in? So it's not you looking at that very topic you have, what you want to achieve in that very topic, and the kind of respondent you are looking for that will enable you to make choice on research strategy. Any question,
Prof,
guys?
yes. Can
Yes.
colleagues hear me?
Yes, we are hearing you.
Okay, thank you, Prof. On my side, I just want to confirm, since the strategy happens to be the how part of your research topic as to how are you going to go through it. So during the presentation of our proposal, as we defend our topics, am I going to be expected to justify why didn't I consider other, as so if you can just quickly go to the previous slide to say why didn't I not use the grounded theory, but I went for ethnography. Like, are those kind of the questions which, as a researcher, I should be concerned about as I would be defending my proposal? Thank you.
Okay. Now, while I was preparing for this class, I had that in mind. Remember in our previous class, I talked about on the part of what, why, and how, right? Now, I could have added in each and every slide, I could have added that part that no matter what, you need to also discuss that the why and how when you're talking about the what. So in this case right now, you should be able to tell the reader that there are other strategies. You don't need to dive in discussing them in details. However, you should be able to refresh the mind of the reader, call the mind of the reader to understand that there are other strategies out there. However, you are going to use, for example, grounded theory. And then now that is where you have to spend time to bring in the what, and then spend more time talking about the why, and spend more time talking about how you're going to use it to achieve your study. Because as a strategy, as a plan that enables you to collect your data, right? So there is a need for you to be able to be realistic on how and why you have done it. So importantly, you need to be able to define why and how it will be applied in this study, because there are other types of research strategy. Let me say this in here. What I have here is few. There are others. There are other types of research strategy that is out there, but these are mostly common strategies you can find within our discipline, if I put it that way. Yeah. I don't know if I've answered you.
Thank you, Prof. I think you've covered me.
Thank you so much. Any other question?
No question, Prof.
Okay. So now we have two main types of time horizon. The first one is longitudinal time horizon, and second is cross-sectional. Now, within the longitudinal time horizon, it focuses on the study that is done over time within phases. Let's say you conduct this study within a period of time. Let's say you conduct it this month, you do it next month, you do it the other month, for you to be able to check if there are any changes, if there is progress that has been made. Let's say it's okay, now I want to establish the perception of whoever the respondent that you're going to use on this topic of what I call it, robots adoption, right? Or e-marking. Now, after, let's say you have done this study, you give them trainings, you make some teachings, some seminars, and then you still conduct the same study to understand if their previous perception have changed because of whatever that was done, or the trainings and so on and so that was provided. If what they think, their perception have changed, that will enable you to say, okay, to read in between, okay, that this was done, look at the perception level, look at night, it is it. That can now make conclusion in that kind of study. Your cross-sectional involves what is done within a certain period of time. Now, so listen, you want to look at student use of a generative chatbot. Now, case closed. You don't need to repeat it again. While longitudinal is all about, it can be repeated across our time over a period of time. Thank you. Now we have data collection techniques. Now, remember, data collection techniques are those tools that can be used to collect your data. The strategy is all about the plan. Now, the techniques are now the tool that you can use to collect the data. Now, the first tool, a tool can be a primary tool or secondary tool, or a method. This thing can be a method they can use to collect this data. You can collect a primary data, or you can collect what? A secondary data. So now, in a primary data, it collects first-hand data. In a primary method of data collection, you collect what? a first-hand data or experience using your quantitative, qualitative, and your mix, your poly, your quant, and your mix method. For example, is survey, which I've talked about, which is also part of a data collection strategy. Now, which in this survey, you can use your questionnaire as the case may be. You have your interview, which is used to respond to series of what? Questions. Now, when you use interview, remember this primary data can be used in the place in what? Quality, quantity, and mix. So if whichever one you have choose. Now, on interview, let's take an example on interview. Okay, let me start with let's say using survey and then you focus on questionnaire. Fine. Now, there are two elements of that which we are going to look at. Is it going to be closed-ended or open-ended? When you say closed-ended, it means what? That this question, you provide that option, and that option after that, they don't have to do anything again. Yes or no, case closed. Say true or false. Agree, disagree, undecided, strongly agree, strongly disagree. Case closed. You don't allow the respondent to make further suggestion. That is what? Close. Ended. Open-ended is where you provide those options and it's still okay, they can express themselves, others, which is not within that. Now, when you come to interview gives you that latitude for you to be able to do what to express them, to express yourself. However, there is structured and unstructured, open or closed. Tell me your understanding about robotics used in education. The person say after that, no more. But in that is a closed-ended structure. You ask that question as it is. After that, you don't extend it. But on a non-structured, you do what? After asking that question, tell me your experience. Now, you further up, you cannot further the question, right? And now, the more they provide response, the more you extend it based on what they are saying within the frame of the question you're asking of that interview. Those who have semi-structured aspect as well, which is in between structured and unstructured. So you find out that what drives you to ask more questions is depending on the answer the person provided. Okay, this is my reason, this is my understanding about robotics in higher education. Okay, why do you give that answer? This, you begin to probe more into the question. And this, on the interview aspect, in this interview can be conducted face-to-face, telephonically, video. There are written interviews as well. And now on the part of a survey questionnaire, to be precise, you are also going to be talking about is it going to be online questionnaire, printed questionnaire, as the case may be. So you have pool data collection, which is used to gain access to quick response from respondents, to have the reflection of what you're talking about. So this is not really you mostly used in our research studies. Now, you have also focus group, which collect qualitative data from a small group of respondents, which between 8 to 10 people, members, respondents. You bring them together, and then you're able to get data from them. So now when we come to secondary method, used to obtain data from existing study sources like government report, academic and non-academic journals, library, internet, and many others. It's still allowed an academic distance. So every data must not be based on first hand. I must go to the field to collect this data. Also, you may not go to the field, you can still do the same study by looking at existing data that is there. Like people instead, they do economists, they normally use existing data whereby they look at, let's say, the reserve bank data, because the reserve bank have a lot of data which they collect on a continual basis to look at that very data within so and so period of time, and so on and so forth. So in information system and in other social science research as well, it also can be used to look at academic journals. So now we have in a secondary research uh, uh, method, we have what is called, which can be called um, literature review studies method. So when you're able to collect from Reserve Bank and IMF and so on and so forth, that is what a secondary method of data collection, which sometimes can also be called literature review, when you take it a little bit further, whereby you're looking at existing studies that are being conducted, which we have different kinds of them. We have our systematic review, have our narrative, we have our meta-analysis, scoping, um, we have scoping, you have a rapid review, and so many others. If you check, I'm gonna share with you uh, a research paper which I have that talks about different kinds of these research methodologies, which you can also use in your study. So on that systematic review, it follows a process, a defined process, a defined approach in conducting literature review study. Now, which enables you to identify, evaluate, and synthesize the synthesis of appropriate research literatures within that study area. It will enable you to know, okay, how to select, what to select, the criteria you're looking at, and everything. So this study must be able to fit within this bracket. And there is a framework that guides systematic literature review study. It's called a primer, which guides you towards what you need to do and how you have to do it, and so on and so forth, for you to conduct a systematic literature review. We have our narrative, which is non-structured, doesn't have a specific area. However, it's aimed to do what? To understand, to get more knowledge into this particular study you're trying to achieve. We have our meta-analysis. It involves the combination of findings from two or more studies to address a conflicting question, a conflicting discussion. But in this, you don't need to say, okay, that let's say you read an article that tells you a question that this is the main, you read an article that say the perception of, or let's say teachers, lecturers, in adopting robotics is mainly, they're gonna be a job losses. You have gained that is what you read. But instead of you making your finding based on that, you seek more clarities across multiple journals, for you to see, okay, that based on that, whatever I read is not just based on one particular source, but across multiple sources, to be, okay, based on this, job losses are the main perception of understanding of this, of teachers, of lecturers. When you talk about robotics in education, there's that fear of there are gonna be a loss of jobs. And that informs you based on so number of articles you have read, 2 or more, that provide that findings. Then from there you can now talk authoritatively that no, that this is gonna happen because of what? Your source is not from one single source. You have your scoping mechanism, which is used to identify research gap or key concept for further studies. Through your scoping research method, you're able to read existing studies that have been published for you to do what? To establish research gap. That is called what? Scoping method, review method, and so many others. Remember, I only talk about 2, and there are many others. I'm going to share that very document for you to read to understand more on I can actually so when I share the document, you can read more on that to understand more on different research secondary research review methods. Okay. In conclusion, before I conclude, any question?
No question, Prof.
Prof, I have a question. Prof.
Okay.
If you can go back to the previous slide, I just want to confirm something. On the last one, to say you, as a researcher, you intend to identify the research gaps. Suppose maybe a space which you come from, it doesn't have much of literature that is out there, but a lot of things that are known by you. How do you then make sure that your research become a credible to the extent that it's not a question because there's less literature out there? Thank you.
Okay. Now, yes, of course, there have been some research whereby we found out there is no much literature in it. However, not having a more literature in it means there is also a research gap. For the fact there is limited literature means there is a gap. This area of study is not being researched. If you have searched widely, but there are limited studies, that's true there is a gap, which also opens the door for more research into that very area. I don't know if I've responded to you.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. So don't be afraid to do a topic that has little literature. Using that one and also broaden your idea within that this thing will also give you more knowledge on what you are trying to research on and how you can now build on that, bringing other studies within that discipline which have indirect link to what you're trying to do. Okay. So every research needs to be conducted within a defined process, and that process must be organized. It's a systematic process. The research is not done in any way, but rather is being defined by the process which is called research methodology. And within that research methodology, we have now the process of data and research strategies, which is time bound, and within that very time bound, there is a need to have the techniques which is being used in data collection. And all these processes that we have seen in this section of presentation and other previous ones, they are all aimed to ensure that their research findings, whatever you have found in the research, can be believed. There is an element of belief that they can be believed by the readers, that this is not just a makeup by you or by the researcher. Also, it can be relied upon. And when it can be relied upon, decisions can be made. It can be taken from that research, whether it be health research and non-health research. If the process has been followed, people is gonna believe it, readers gonna believe it, and then it can be reliable that whatever that has been proposed can solve a given problem. And then there is a need when the process is being followed, is being conducted, the research is being conducted within these laid down processes. It can be repeated. There's a element of repeatability in it. That even though you conduct similar studies, so and so, from in point B, in a location B, the findings may not be the same, but it will be achieved. So you can repeat the same study other places, and then it can be valid. It can be used. The validity will be assured because of what? The processes has been followed. Question for an answer. Thank you, guys.
Prof, just a last
Yes.
one. You have mentioned the issue of validity and also to say it's not a makeup study. So from the assessor point of view, in academia, so to speak, how do you then respond to such risks to say the researcher might be making up his or her thinking without necessarily consulting the literature or any information that was going to be relevant in order to validate the research result? Thank you.
Okay. So your question is on the part of how you can be able to make research to be what? How to make your research to be what?